All right, well, welcome to Theology 101. So we're recording this week because we videoed the last round, but I didn't teach the first week, and so they wanted to have me on video for doing all of them. So basically the way the class works is there's 8 weeks of it. You can miss 2, and if you miss it, I'll put this up on the board right now. It's here's where all the classes are. You can watch or listen to them online at THEO 101. So at the website /THEO 101. So we just need to get this first week on there. Kind of the way that each class works, you should have got a book today, but they delivered it on Saturday when no one was here, and so now we won't get it until Tuesday or something like that. So next week I'll make sure that you guys have this book. The notes, I think, have gone out to all of your emails, and so you'll be able to do the homework with that. There's homework for each week. There's no grade like A, B, C, D, F, but it is kind of pass fail. So basically, if you're here for most of the time and you go through it, that's great. The reason why we do homework is so that we can have a little bit of interaction with what you're thinking. So each week is kind of just like a page, a couple paragraphs of processing what you read and what you're thinking through the class, and so I can kind of have a little bit of one-on-one conversation with you through the written homework. So it's to your benefit to do it. It's not required to do it, but it's better if you do. It's kind of like one of those things, the more you put in, the more you get out, So that's the way that works. There's a memory verse too for each week, and I'll put that up on there when we get to the homework stuff at the end. All right, so the way that the class is structured is we're just kind of assuming blank slate. We're assuming you know nothing. Now, obviously, all of you are very smart and bright people, I assume, and a lot of you have thoughts about God. Maybe you've even studied a lot of these things before. But we don't know what those things are, and so we kind of want to just start at ground zero. So we start first week with just something simple, like God. And there's kind of an apologetic bent through the whole class, and by apology I don't mean saying sorry, but a reasonable defense. So 1 Peter 3:15 says everybody ought to be able to get a reason for the hope that is in them. So Christianity isn't like a lay your brains at the altar type of religion. It's actually a very thinking religion, that God gave his people a book, and is always being a people of the book, even way back to the Old Testament. It requires abstract thinking. It requires cognition. God was different than all the other gods in the land, that he was a God that was revealed through words in a book that you had to think about. And so God's giving you a mind, and we want to teach you how to use that well. And we live in a city where a place like San Diego, a very small percentage of the city, only about 6% actually claims to be Bible-believing, Jesus-loving Christians. You've got every single kind of belief and race and interest here in San Diego. So we want to teach you how to be able to talk to people well. So what we do with each week, we start out with a little bit of brainstorming together. We want to be aware of what beliefs there are in our city and what you've come across. And so let's just start out this week with the word God. When people see and hear the word God, what comes to mind? What do people say? What ideas are out there? What are you aware of?
Higher power.
Okay, higher power. Good. What else? Almighty. Okay.
Themselves.
What's that?
Themselves.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
It seems like people around here in this area go from within and they think whatever they do, whatever feels good they do, and that is just their God. They don't really believe in anything outside of themselves.
Okay. So I'll just put I am my own God. So on that, you kind of mean get to pick and believe whatever you want. Is up to you. Okay. Pick and choose.
Make it up
own
as you go sometimes.
Beliefs. Okay. Cool.
Personable being.
Personable being. What do you mean by that?
The one that you can have a relationship with.
Okay. We'll talk about that today. Good. What else?
Somebody in control.
In control.
Creator.
Creator. Say that again. What do you mean by that?
Like letting go of like, personal control and just like having faith. I don't know
Okay.
how to-
So it's kind of like, do you mean like that God's kind of like a wishful thinking? Is that what you mean? That you kind of, there's no, like you just have to have faith that there is?
I don't know.
I'll put like faith, wishful idea. Okay.
So this is what people in this area believe, or what I believe?
People, we want to be aware of what ideas are out there about God. So when people see or hear the word God, I mean, it can be anything. I mean,
She.
does it, or she, there we go. So some people think it's a she. Good, all right. Mother Earth, right?
Right.
Or Mother Nature. Good. What else?
Science,
Okay, like what do you mean by that?
like there is a God, like everything needs a factual proof.
Science disproves. Okay, we'll talk about that today a little bit.
There is no God, atheist.
Good, there we go. No God. This is the belief known as naturalism. We'll talk about that. Okay.
Divine mover, like people separate it from a religious God and just say there's somebody that started something at the beginning.
Okay. Okay.
Santa Claus.
Okay, what do you mean by that? I like that.
Like people ask God for what they want when it's convenient.
Cool. I like to call this the cosmic vending machine idea.
Did you say ruler or mover?
Mover.
Okay.
Yeah, the unmoved mover. Yeah.
King of Kings is always.
Okay.
All-knowing.
Okay. Okay.
Everywhere.
Okay.
He's there, but they could care less, so like agnostic.
Agnostic. So agnosticism is technically the belief where you're not sure. So maybe there's a God, maybe not. Okay. So maybe.
I think that he's like on the same level as evil, like there's just a balance.
Okay. So it's the good force.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is known as cosmic dualism. That there are two equally opposing forces or gods in the universe, the good God and the evil God. So the religious form of cosmic dualism is what's originally known as Zoroastrianism, one of the oldest religions of the world. The other form of this is more in the Eastern idea of Taoism, with the yin and the yang, that it's a balance of power, but it's not necessarily a being of God, they're just forces.
Is that kind of like the same thing of saying that like it's the same God for all religions?
Okay, we call that pluralism. So the idea is, so all religions are the same. You've got two different forms of it. You've got the Baha'i faith that actually attempts to have a religious worship center. There's a big one over in Encinitas, big Baha'i center of being an all faiths God. The other one is more of like, all religions, maybe they teach like the different things, but it's all talking about the same thing. So they'll use the analogy of the elephant. So there's an elephant and there's a bunch of people with blindfolds on and everybody's just feeling a different part of the elephant and describing it. One's maybe feeling a leg, one's feeling the trunk, and one's feeling the tail. Which is an interesting analogy because like, how did you get your blindfold off and who told you there was an elephant? So we'll talk about that a little bit today. Yeah.
Buddha,
Okay.
so like idolatry.
That was something I was hoping somebody would bring up. So Buddhism, along with Hinduism, is really not so much a belief in a powerful God or a person of God, but it's a religion of pantheism is what it is. And so the idea is Atman is Brahman. So I am one with nature and nature is one with me. I am this table and this table is with me, is me. And that the more that we realize our oneness with the universe, the more that we will escape the suffering and the pain that comes from being detached from it. So the way out of suffering, the way of salvation, is to become one with the universe. And so most Eastern religions will believe in reincarnation. So you're working off your karma, your bad deeds, by doing good deeds. And each time you'll be reincarnated over and over again until you reach nirvana in utero and become fully one with the universe.
Hinduism is of many gods.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Hinduism actually, so they've got all kinds of different gods that are basically people who have reached this nirvana in utero status, which Buddha is one of. So I actually teach, I haven't taught it in a while here, but a class on world religions where we go through all the major religions of the world and talk about them, understand what they teach, what they claim is how Christianity may be similar, but how it is actually very different. So, cool. Well, that's a pretty good list. I think you guys hit most of the things I was hoping that we'd hit on today. That are, most of those beliefs, you'll find these in people. You just talk to them. What do you think? Who do you think God is? It's a good question to ask people and to listen to their answers. We don't always have to move immediately to the defensive and trying to win an argument. A lot of times we can win an argument but lose the person. And we care more about winning the person than winning the argument. So you don't have to always know all the answers and have the right answers. And a lot of times just listening and asking questions is the way to go. I know when I first graduated from seminary back in 2004, I felt like I just had this machine gun of knowledge, and I'm like, come on, ask me, I'll mow you down, I'll win, you can win the argument and lose the person. So, cool. Well, what I want to do is start out with an evidential argument, actually a compound evidential argument for the existence of God, and we'll talk about a different form of argument for the existence of God at the end of the class, and you'll understand the difference between evidentialism and what's called presuppositionalism. So first off, to start out, can someone pick an object in the room for me?
Coffee, jar.
Okay. How did that get there?
Somebody put it there.
Somebody put it there. Okay. Where did they get it from?
From whoever they bought it from.
Okay. Like the store, you mean?
Yeah.
Where did the store get it from?
The manufacturer.
Okay. And where did the manufacturer get it from?
They made it.
What did they make it out of?
Whatever material it's made out of.
And where did they get the material?
From Earth.
Okay. And then where did that come from? Getting frustrated again? What I'm getting at is a principle of cause and effect. That you can pick any object in this room, and there's a chain of cause and effect relationships behind that. Correct? So, we pick a coffee. What do you call it? An air pot. Where did that come from? There's a reason where that come from. No matter what object we pick, we are going to follow back and back and back cause and effect relationships. But can we keep following causes back forever and ever? No, we run into something that's called the problem of infinite regression. The problem of infinite regression is understood that you cannot keep tracing causes back forever and ever in the cycle, that there must be some uncaused cause that started this long chain of cause and effect. Does that make sense? Is that reasonable? We could press in on the infinite because there's something about the difference between a potential infinite and an actual infinite. You guys want to go there? Would that be helpful? Does that sound interesting? Okay, so in one line, there is potentially an infinite amount of points behind it. But however, in the real world, there is no such thing as an actual infinite. Because in the real world, could I ever traverse all of those points and get from point A to point B? No. So think of the tortoise and the hare, that analogy. No matter how far, if one gets ahead, if he wants to actually catch up, if there's actually an actual infinite amount of points between them, he can never actually catch up. So actual infinites do not exist in the real world. They only exist potentially. Does that make sense? And we live in the real world, dealing with real things. So dealing with the real world, when looking at cause and effects with things like air pots and tables, we run into the problem of infinite regression, that there must be an uncaused cause that started this chain of cause and effect relationships. Make sense? Seem reasonable? But let's talk about oh man, these are like, we couldn't afford like real whiteboards, so these are like wannabe whiteboards that kind of half work. So if anybody ever wants to like, give us some money to buy real whiteboards, that would be awesome. So let's just start out at this point. We don't know much about this first cause. Let's just call it nothing. Something but nothing. But does it make sense that we can maybe learn something about this first cause by what came out of it? That seem reasonable? Okay. So when we look at this air pot, it has a physical existence, right? What would be some of its qualities? Okay, it's got plastic. Durable? Like, what do you mean by that? It seems like a good one that won't break very easy?
Heavy, it's solid.
Okay, it's solid. It's got mass, right? Okay, great. So we have things that resulted from this that have a mass, that are made of matter or energy, right? Okay. Now let's talk about some other physical objects. Let's think about human beings. Human beings have all kinds of different cells, right? What are some cells that we have in our body?
Carbon.
What's that?
I'm sorry.
Blood cells.
Red blood cells?
White blood cells.
White blood cells? What else? What's eye cells?
Eyelid.
Islet cells. Okay. And you've got cells that say what color your eyes are going to be, right? That's not islet cells, though, is it? Yeah. Pancreatic. Oh man, you're really smoking me now. Oh, are you a nurse or a doctor?
Yes.
Ah, gotcha. See, all right. See, now you can really help us out, Hill. Nerve cells, skin cells.
Cancer cells?
Yeah. Hopefully nobody. Well, yeah, we've had some. Stephen, you've battled a bit with that, huh? Cancer cells, they're not good. What else? Hair cells. I mean, we've got cells for everything in our body, right? Tell us what color our skin is, what color our eyes are, what color our hair is. Now, you'll actually be able to help us with this. In every one of the cells, we have this little tail on the end that makes the cells move around the body. A cell has over 40 different working parts. And each cell, the flagellum is the name of that. Am I right? Is it the flagellum?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It can turn at I think it's 25 to 30 miles per hour to make a move, and it can, on a dime, turn around and go the other way at 25 to 30 miles an hour. We have yet to be able to make a machine that can do that. Now, what's interesting about the cell is it's what's called an irreducible complexity. You guys you've all seen and aware of a mouse trap, right? So you've got, gosh, that is terrible. We must use different pins normally. I don't know where this one came from. It usually isn't that bad. But so you've got, your mouse trap. It's got the spring, the hitch, the latch. It's got 5 main different working parts. What part of the mouse trap can I take out and have it still work? None. It's irreducibly complex, right? And the cell is the exact same way. You can't take out any one of its 40 parts and still have it work. It's an irreducibly complex machine. Now, in our church, we don't oh, thank you so much, Louie. That one will be better, I think. We don't go to war over evolution, because even if there is some evolutionary process, there has to still be a first cause that started. If there's a Big Bang, what caused the Big Bang to happen, right? We don't split hairs over that. However, if evolution is true, and we have cells in our body, there's no way that it could evolve from one step to another. Does that make sense? Also, what we see in the universe is the second law of thermodynamics, or what's called the law of entropy. So we've got coffee here. What happens when coffee, it starts out hot? What happens after time? It gets cold. Now, why does it get cold?
It loses energy to the environment.
Correct. And so it's dispersing. So we see the law of entropy, thermodynamics, that everything, everywhere in the universe goes from a state of order to chaos. Does that make sense? Order to chaos. The theory of evolution works the opposite way, that it would be the one one example in all of creation where things would go from a state of chaos to order. So that's just for free side note. So let's just put over here. Well, let me back up here. So let's talk a little bit more about the cell. I want to linger on this one a little bit. What is inside the cell? Like, so if you maybe the
Neutrons?
so anybody recognize this? I'm sure you guys will. DNA, right? Right. What's on each one of these ladder rungs in the DNA, right? Does anybody know it there? There's an order, right, of A, T, C, G, and that order determines what the makeup of that cell is going to be, right? They say if you were to unravel that twisted ladder of DNA that's in every one of those microscopic cells of your body, it would be about 7 feet long, almost the span of my arm. Now, let me ask you a question. Anybody gone to the beach lately? Okay, yeah. If you're walking along the sand and you see this in the sand, what do you think?
Who's John and Mary?
Okay. Who's John? Why would you think that they're a person? Because they have names.
They have feelings.
And they have feelings. There's love. So, what are you saying that these certain shapes and letters that they actually conveys information? Yeah. So we understand this principle that information implies intelligence. Okay, information implies intelligence. Now, scientists have a way of rating the amount of information. It's something called Shannon entropy. So they give a normal English sentence with a subject, a verb, and an object a rating of about 1.1. Now, the amount of information in just one of your cells in your body is a rating of 3.4. Wow. Massive amount of information. And we already said information implies intelligence. You think that somebody wrote that because it conveys a message, right? The chances of like having one human cell with that high amount of information just coming out of nothing. You could try for 1 second, every second at the longest. You take the most generous, liberal estimation of how old the entire universe is. You don't have chance for 1 second to even try. It's something like 10 to the 21st power. That's like a 10 with 21 zeros after it. It's like the chances of a tornado hitting a junkyard and outcoming a 747. Or a hurricane hitting a lumber yard and all of a sudden here comes out an apartment complex. Pretty crazy. So we look at this mass and this matter and we see that there's just a high amount of information design. Now, one other thing, like where are we right now? We're in San Diego, and we're even more specifically, where are we? We're in a church building, and then where are we? We're in this class, in this room. So we understand, and like where is the air pod? On the table. So if anything has matter, mass, and energy, it also exists in a certain place or space and time, correct? Okay. Now, I want to ask one more question here. I'm sorry that you guys can't read it. Like, I don't know. I'm going to...
And what's our book called, please?
The-
Again, what was our book called?
Oh, you'll get it. I'll have it for you next week. It's just Theology of the Resolved Church.
Oh.
Yeah. So I want to ask you one more question. You guys are all like familiar with the idea that what's true for you may not be true for me, and we all have the right to our own opinions and own beliefs, and we just need to tolerate one another's beliefs and respect each other, right? Everybody's familiar with that? So in that way of thinking, I can believe what I want. I have the right to act upon my beliefs, right? Okay. This is mine. I believe stealing is okay. It's my right to believe what I want and act upon that belief. This is mine.
Hey,
Oh!
that is mine.
Yeah? Now, see, what we come to understand is that kind of sounds good, but it doesn't really work. There are certain things that we know are universally right and wrong for all people in all time in all places. Like, nobody would ever say that killing babies for fun is okay. There's certain things that is inherently woven within who we are as human beings. We cannot get rid of this sense of ought, is what C.S. Lewis said, this sense of morality. You cannot get rid of ethics.
That's good.
And so then we'll add into this that somehow, out of this nothing, there became a sense of morality or ethics, right and wrong. Okay. All right. To be able to make mass and energy come forth into existence before there was anything, whatever this first cause is, must have been pretty powerful, right?
You have to move it.
To put it in a specific place in space and time, this first cause before space and time would be everywhere, right? Everywhere present.
There wasn't nowhere.
Right? Yeah. Nowhere and everywhere. Right. No space and time. So everywhere. To be able to have such things come into existence that have such a high amount of information and design, whatever this first cause must be pretty knowledgeable, right? And then to be able to have things that come into existence that have a sense of right and wrong, then this first cause must actually know or be what is good and be the standard of that, right? So what we started out calling nothing starts to look a lot like the traditional Judeo-Christian concept of God, a being who is all-powerful, everywhere present, all-knowing, and who is in fact all good. Now, let me ask you one more question, one last question. What can this pot make happen of its own willpower and decision-making ability? Nothing. Right? Okay. What can a dead body make happen if it wants to? Nothing. So we understand that only living beings can cause things to happen. Living beings who, in fact, exist or are alive. And that's what I call a compound argument for the existence of God. How many times did I quote the Bible?
Never.
None. We started with a pot. And from that can use our brains and understand that there is reasonable evidence to think that there is actually a God. Now, did you guys need me to tell you all that to convince you that there is a God? No. So I used evidence. But one of the things the Bible talks about is that the fool says in his heart there is no God. Ecclesiastes 3 says that God has put eternity into men's hearts, that deep down we really all know that there is a God. And so that's what's called a presuppositional argument, that we know there's a God. Even the atheist who says there's no God has to define the God that he says doesn't believe in. He has to argue for the existence of God than to say that it doesn't exist, because you can't get rid of the idea of God. Yeah.
And even the heavens declare his glory.
Correct. Psalm 19. Yeah, that would be both the kind of proof text for what we do and present in this class would be Psalm 19 and Romans 1. So Psalm 19 says, the heavens declare the handiwork of the skies proclaim the work of his hands. There's no place where his speech has not gone forth. And so we can look at the works of the heavens and reason from there as a God. Romans 1 said that God, his invisible power and his divine attributes have been clearly perceived since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So we can look at the things that have been made and clearly perceive that there's a creator God. And those happen to be, you can pick one of those two as your memory verse for this week. So thank you very much. All right. Let's do questions. Questions you guys have? Yeah.
I just had a question on when you were talking about you don't pick on evolution a lot.
Mhm.
Do you believe in like a literal 7-day creation, or like
Yeah.
what do you guys believe?
Well, we don't have a like official church stance, if you will, on that. I think that the scriptures lend most clearly to a 7-day creation, but not because of anything Genesis says. Actually, because of something that Exodus says in the 10 Commandments. He says that we should rest for a 24-hour period because God created the yom, the day, in 6 24-hour periods. So I think that's the best exegetical answer. Some would counter-argue and say, yeah, but other places in the Bible say that a day with the Lord is like 1,000 years, da-da-da-da-da. That's the other side of that argument. I'm more of an old earth creationist. This is just beside the point. This is just Dwayne, not the church position. But it seems that God created Adam and Eve with the appearance of age, and that he would create the earth with an appearance of age, so that it could actually function well. So, yeah. That's fun stuff. That's just like speculative theology. But, yeah. All right. Any other questions? All right, so one of the things we love to do is what we call table talk, and so this week is, if you look at, once you get your books, you'll be able to see what the table talk question is for each. But since we don't have that for this week, I will write it on the board for us. So, here it is. So, the question is, when did you start believing there is actually a God, and what has contributed to that? So let's break up into like, groups of just maybe like at your couches or whatever, and just whatever works naturally, and just sit and talk a little bit. Like, when did you first remember hearing about God, and how has your ideas of God, changed or grown over time? That make sense? Cool. All right. I'll write it on there. So let's break for like 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and talk about what you guys talked about. Cool. All right. Some good discussion going on. Fun to talk about, isn't it? Yeah, I love doing the table talk thing because every one of us have a different experience, and it's different things that we bring to the table. What did you guys come up with? When did you first hear about God?
Hang it up in my mouth.
Oh, that's all right.
For me, I felt like I was the only one that had like a rock bottom experience.
Gotcha.
Not to call them out, but
Yeah.
I don't think they did.
Yeah. That's all right.
I grew up in a Christian home, and
Yeah.
gone through trials and definitely hard times,
Mhm.
but I never
Mm-hmm.
had a time where I didn't know God.
Yeah. Different people have different experiences. I remember when I spent some time in Europe and be like, dude, you're the first one I've ever met that still believed there was actually a God. We thought they proved that there is no God a long time ago. I was like, oh, no. Yeah. Yeah. What else did you guys come up with?
All three of us grew up Christian.
Yeah.
So
What a blessing.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Being taught about God.
I think that even growing up Christian, though, you hit a point where it's like, are you going to accept it on your own?
Mm-hmm.
You mature and you develop more of a personal relationship.
Yeah.
It's not just what your parents have taught you.
Yeah. You got to live on your own.
Yeah.
Hear that, Adina? Yeah. Yeah. You can't believe in God just because Daddy gets to. You got to figure that out on your own. Andreas, so now you didn't grow up being taught about God, but how did you first hear about God?
Well, I mean, I grew up Catholic.
Okay.
It was seasonal, like
Okay.
Easter and
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always, like I told him, I always thought that there was a God, like he created us and then left us to be,
Gotcha.
and then just procreate so we
Mhm.
can exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about it. Like you can't really get a personal relationship with him.
Yeah.
And like, cause my parents never lived that out.
Yeah.
I never saw it. And
Yeah.
we never ever talked about faith.
Yeah. That's one thing we didn't actually come up in our brainstorm. That's a belief called deism, and so it's the idea that God, like a watchmaker, he made the watch, wound it up, and then he doesn't have any interaction or involvement with what he created. What we see in the Bible is a God that actually interacts with his people, and then chiefly in coming to earth in Jesus to meet with us. So yeah.
Well, I can kind of relate to what he's saying. So what I had told my friends,
Mm-hmm.
I first heard about God in church in Sunday school from
Mhm.
a Lutheran teacher. But you know, it was a definite falling away in my life, and it seems as though the one thing that seems to hold true in what you're saying, relationship, I think would have helped me to
Yeah.
hold on better.
Mm-hmm.
Because even now, 28 years into my faith, I'm just understanding that relationship because it was so broken
Definitely.
from age 1
Yeah.
in my life. Even though I heard about him,
Mhm.
I love the stories.
Yeah.
But I just really felt like he was a distant God.
Right. Totally.
And because my father was distant, my
Mhm.
mother was distant.
That has a
and so
huge effect.
It really does.
Yeah. Your family of origins and what you were brought up with, and the representation of God, especially from the father figure, since we call God Father. And one of the things you understand, like that sense or existence of God never gets fully stamped out. So even the person that's like, yeah, I never grew up hearing about God, and we've had, I remember we baptized a girl that ended up going with the church plant that she was raised Buddhist, but then once hearing God explain, like that's what I've always thought. If there was a God, that's what he would be like. Now, God, and we'll talk about this in coming weeks, is a God who exists as a Trinity, as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit exist in relationship with himself. So you're exactly right. For our love of God and our growth in God to flourish and to and be healthy and to grow, we've got to be in relationship with other people. It happens in and through a relationship.
Just like 372 times or something in the Bible, it's like talks about
One another's. The one
And I was
another's. Yeah.
fascinated by that
Mhm.
relationship.
Yeah.
Being a precursor to everything, or how our faith is going to grow or not going to grow. That's
Mhm.
what God meant for us.
Yeah. So is that kind of, you're saying, how has it changed? Like the more you've been in relationship with other people that do know and love God, the more that relationship with God actually grows. And the more that you're not, the more it dissipates, huh? Yeah. Very good. Very
And then
good.
bad theology is on top of that. So I got to tell you, for a year being in the California area, I've been fighting being a member of a church. So I'm like, I've been a Christian for 30 years. I don't need this.
Mhm.
But I do.
Mhm.
Thank you, God. He's confirming to me why I'm sitting here. Because even coming here just a half an hour ago, I was like, I just don't need to be here. But it's the bad theology that I've believed along the way. And I shouldn't say that I've even believed because it's, and what I mean by bad theology is not even being told
Mhm.
the full truth, the full
Yeah.
gospel.
Yeah.
There's so much of what I've learned that's been a lopsided, almost dragging one foot along gospel,
Mhm.
and that's not life either. That's not
Yeah.
abundant life.
Well,
And
you're glad you're
so-
here because our theology is 100% perfect. I don't get it. No, but you'll notice this class, it's kind of like 4 systematic theology classes crammed down into 8 weeks, and it's a lot of theology, it's a lot of doctrine, because when it comes down to it, we care more about what you believe than how we do church. We change a lot what we do things, and those things, we believe the secret things of the Lord, the revealed things are unto us, which he's revealed in his written word. And so where the Bible says do something, we do that. Where it doesn't, there's a lot of different ways to do that, and there's a lot of freedom and grace in how we do church. But we care a lot about when it comes down to it, we care more about what you believe. Now we do have the Theology 102 class, which is Christian living, where what is this stuff, how does this actually play out in our lives? How do we relate individually to God as Father? How do we relate to Jesus as our brother? How do we relate to the Spirit? And so we walk through those in Theology 102, but that's part 2 of the class. So, so good start, good interaction. I know you hear a lot from me like on Sundays preaching, but I like to teach and interact and stuff too. So thank you for making it fun, and we're just getting started. So we will have there's going to kind of be a plethora of different guys teaching this round of THEO 101. So we'll have Dennis Fry, who one of the guys we're about to install as pastor. He'll teach a couple weeks. Pastor Ryan Buss will teach a couple. My assistant Ryan will probably teach one or two, and then I'll probably be back here at the end with you guys. So you'll get to know some of the other church leaders, which is good and healthy. So cool. There's the memory verse. Homework is everybody? I didn't even see where the attendance thing went around. Was everybody's name? You were already registered. So what happened? If they're delivering the book. So Ryan said he would email you a PDF of stuff so you can see the homework in it. So basically, you're going to read a little section from this big book by Wayne Grudem. Now, systematic theology, it's different. The Bible is arranged kind of according to what we call redemptive history. From creation to culmination in the end. The way a systematic theology is written, it's more by topic. It's like, what does the Bible say about this topic? And then looking at all the passages on that. What does the Bible say about this topic? And so it's good at some point in your life to get a hold of a systematic theology. You don't read straight through this. You kind of look up different chapters on different things. And this is one of the best really readable ones that you can get. And so you're going to get exposed a little bit to it by reading Wayne Grudem on the existence of God. So you're going to read that and then write a one-page response. And there's my email. Just so you know, this actually goes to my assistant, and then he forwards it to my stuff to my personal email, because otherwise I had to change my email a couple years ago because I just get flooded, and then I'm just responding to email all week long. So, oh, sorry, Dwayne, DUANE @theresolve.com. Yeah. So,
Email the responses to that?
yeah, you can just send it to that. Dwayne @theresolve. It'll go to my assistant, and then I'll get it through him. So, and then we'll respond to him as best we can. So. Cool. Any other remaining questions?
So, real quick, salvation by grace alone, yes?
What our church believes?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the question. We consider ourselves in the Reformed tradition. So we'll talk about Calvinism in week 6 here. All of our church leaders, all the pastors are 5-point Calvinists. I'm a 7-pointer, but but you don't have to embrace Calvinism and become a member here. But we do believe that's accurate teaching of the Bible. So we affirm that all the 5 solas that salvation is by grace alone, through faith alone, in the person and work of Jesus Christ alone, revealed in the Bible alone, for the glory of God alone. There you go, the 5 solas, all the alones. We like them. All right, cool. Let me pray for us real quick. God,